It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm your host. I'm also one of the CFPs on the program. And with me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
Well, 529 plans have traditionally been thought of and used as a college savings account. And thanks to recent law changes, the 529 plan is now more versatile as a tax shelter to use as a tool in your financial plan. So what are the ways that you can best use the 529 plan? That and more coming up in this episode of the Wise Money Show.
Wise Money Show is a show about financial planning and how you can take and should take a comprehensive approach looking at all 6 areas of your financial life to make great financial decisions. The 529 plan, knowing how it can be used, how some of those these law changes have impacted that. Oh, gosh, we're excited about it. We're geeks, but we're going to help you with it today. If you have questions for the show or you have any needs yourself, we're here to help. Call or text 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. Online at wisemoneyshow.com or all over social media, wherever you're at. We are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. All right, guys, we're talking about the 529 plan and the various ways that you can use it, not just for college anymore, but just real quick, I feel like I probably know this answer, but did you guys, did your folks set money aside, save any money for you for college? And if so, what type of account?
Not a dollar, Mike.
Not a dollar?
Well,
You got to have that dollar before you can save that dollar.
Got it. Understood. Yeah. Yeah.
my family was a little different than Josh was. We were very wealthy. And so what my folks did is they had a $5,000 whole life policy that they put money into. And I think when I was 25, they gave it to me, and I think there was about $500 in it.
Nice.
So see, big difference.
But that was back when $500 was like $1 million, wasn't it?
It's today's equivalent of $2.5 billion.
That was like full ride, grad school, and down payment on your first house.
Right. Mike, that is a kind of a silly question because that was back when it seemed like no one had any money.
Yeah.
That was before we separated back then money was attached to something, so you actually had to have something representing value connected to the money other than just the paper itself. And now in the growth of fiat,
So you did
different.
GI Bill.
I had the GI Bill, because my dad, when it came time, all I wanted to do was go in the Army and kill the bad guys. And so when it came time, I was 17, I'm like, Dad, I want to sign up, but I need your signature. And he said, well, I don't think you should do it. I'm not going to sign. I'm like, okay, well, on my 18th birthday, I'm going to go sign up for myself. And he said, okay, I'll sign. But he's like, no, we'll figure it out. I'm like, Dad, how are you going to pay for my college? Because I haven't been working my tail off and saving money to pay for college. And you and Mom don't have anything. Mm-hmm. And we had a rich life. I'm not complaining. It was wonderful, but it wasn't a bunch of extra money laying around to say, hey, is there anything you want to do, like go to college that we can pay for, or, something like that.
Different times.
It was a different time, and back then it was a little easier theoretically to work your way through college.
Yep.
If you worked your tail off during the summer, you could save up a lot of what you were going to need for tuition the next semester or whatever.
Well, see, and so Josh is taking us back. So I went to school from 89 to 93, but you're absolutely right, Josh. You could work hard during the summer, save money, and hard during the school year and get just a little bit of help and get out of school with really no debt.
So that was my program. My folks, we were blessed. My folks had a very different experience. Dad worked full time, college at night. Took him 8 or 9 years. Mom was only able to go to college because she got in a car accident. She was hit by a car and in a coma for 2 weeks, and they thought she was going to die. And when she came out, there was a little insurance money. And my grandparents, instead, they had no money. And I wouldn't have made this decision, but they said, we're going to, we'll send our daughter to college with that money. So, but my folks then, they saved up for my college, my brother's college. But I worked in the summer hard, and I worked during the school year, and so I didn't use a lot of that money. And they were kind enough to bless me with it when I graduated. And so the type of account they used was something called an UTMA, Uniform Transfer to Minors Act, I think is what it stands for. UGMA, very similar. And those used to be the college accounts. They're terrible for college.
Yeah,
they were not meant for college. In fact, some of the rules with these are as soon as that child turns 18, it's their money. It's legally their money, and the way most parents get around that is they don't give the statement to the child, so the child has no idea it exists.
Right.
There's no tax sheltering. There's no tax benefits with this, and sure, it gives you a lot of flexibility, but no more flexibility than just an individual or joint account.
Yeah.
So.
This is such a big deal, and it's kind of personal for me. I just had a conversation with one of my middle schoolers. He was asking, Dad, how am I going to pay for college? And I'm like,
good question, son.
That's right. Get to work there, bucko. No, he's like, I got to save up for a car and insurance. And how do you pay for college? All this. I only make so much money. And he's only in middle school. And I'm just glad that he's learning how to work, right? But already he's thinking about, wow, that seems like a big deal. And he asked the question, well, do I really need to go to college? And that might be a topic for another show, right?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that college is a great investment? But if you're going, how do you pay for it? And 529 plans haven't been around forever. It wasn't a thing, really, back when your parents were saving. So I don't know. I'm glad that we're unpacking this on this show.
Okay, so without a doubt, if you're saving up for college, our favorite type of account to save up into is a 529 plan. It's not perfect. We're going to hit some of the drawbacks later in the show, some of the limitations. But speaking of limitations, they've actually expanded the ways that you can use a 529 plan in your financial life. There's actually four uses for a 529 plan now. It's not just for college. We're going to go through all four of those. The first one, though, is the obvious one, and that is for college. So guys, let's first just level the playing field. How does the 529 plan work? How does it work for college? What are some of the tax benefits? All that sort of stuff.
Well, Mike, what you do is you take after-tax money, so think money in my checking account, and you contribute it to a 529 plan. That money grows tax-deferred, potentially tax-free if you use it for the right purpose. And one of the amazing things that they've done from the beginning of this plan is they've increased the various uses of the plan.
Yeah.
And so this to me makes the case, and this is maybe a little tangent, but this makes the case that you should diversify the tax shelters that you're funding and find a way to kind of fill up, at least from a minimum perspective, but fill up these buckets, because you never know when they're going to change. You never know when they're going to come out, and some brilliant politician is going to put in there that if you've had it for 15 years, you can take 529 plan money and put it into a Roth IRA.
And we're going to hit that.
So we're going to hit a lot of things, and because this is not a show about rules, Mike. It's a show about planning, just to remind you. So when you,
but let's clarify some rules here.
Yes,
because you alluded to the fact that if you use it properly, then you can pull money out of that 529 plan after it's grown for years and years, and it can be completely tax-free.
Totally tax-free.
But if the first use, the original purpose of a 529 plan was to save for college,
yes.
What are qualified college expenses? It's things like tuition and fees and room and board, as long as you're at least a half-time student. So you can't be taking one class, hanging out in the dorms, and think that the dorms are a qualified expense there. But they've even added over the years, things like a computer for school.
Yep.
Your books and supplies, as long as they're supplies that are required for the class. Can't be party supplies.
Software, some internet access as well. These are qualified expenses. There's a couple expenses that almost every college student has that are not qualified, and one of those is transportation. Earlier in my career, I got actually a pretty compelling argument. A client of mine, oldest child, was going to school at Arizona State in northern Indiana. Is actually a pretty far distance from Arizona State. So, hey, it's required. I've got to get my child there. So can I pull the plane ticket money out of this? And no, you can't. And the other is medical insurance, health insurance. But a lot of these schools add a health care sort of cost to it. They have access to the health clinic, and that's not a qualified expense as well. What are more of the qualified expenses, and what are more of the use cases for the 529 plan? We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern time every Saturday morning, and also on podcast at the same time, but also on a couple local radio stations as well, which is why the content is as long as it is and broken up in these chunks the way that it is. But make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because all throughout the work week we have next wise step videos. They taking one specific concept, regional banking crisis. How does this impact you? And various other things. How should you structure your investments if you're going to retire this year? Those sorts of things. And all designed to educate you and help you take your next wise step in your financial life. So if that sounds like that would be beneficial to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and if you like the content, like the content. Thank you very much. All right, let's pick it back up.
Yeah, that went quickly. I mean, do we lay out the kind of the, okay, it started with you could only use it for higher education, and then we went to, in 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, we said we can do the...
Can I permission to be a little mean to Kevin and on the air?
It's in the agenda that I spent hours preparing. If you would just look at what I said.
Those are the four.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
So yes, that's the
Good idea. We definitely should follow the agenda.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start with college, and then we're gonna go to
That's what I'm saying.
student loans, and then we're gonna go to
Student loans.
K
You can
through
repay student
12.
loan.
K through 12. That's going to be the third one, and then the fourth one is going to be the Roth IRA.
What about the apprenticeship program?
Throw that under college. Say that in this next.
That's one of the
segment.
529 uses. We're only going to hit the top 4. But I don't think we really.
That's a form of higher education. It could fit here, if you want to mention it.
What?
Could.
Throw it under college.
Apprenticeship program.
Alternative to college.
Well, as long as it's registered and certified with the U.S. Department of Labor. Forgive me for getting into the rules section. I'm trying to be planning, mindful, if you will. Don't say it.
Not planful?
Don't say it. No.
Okay, so
If you're mindfully planning, then
Yes.
you're kind of being
No.
planful.
Shh. Nope.
so there's more. I think there's more that we need to hit regarding college. So
Hit it.
all right, here we go. There are 4 different ways that you can use the 529 plan in your financial life. And yes, 3 of them are related to education, but there's one that isn't, and it's brand new. We're going to help you with all of that and more. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name's Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast. Wherever you listen, go and search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it, or follow us there, and rate the program. We appreciate that. All right, so yeah, you can use the 529 plan. Kevin actually proposed that we talk about the 529 uses of the 529 plan, but no one would have listened to that, and we wouldn't be able to fit it into an hour. So we're going to stick with the top 4, and the first one's obvious, and that is using it for college. Now, there's more than just that, but let's still get through some of those rules. So we said that it's after-tax money that goes into the 529 plan, so you don't get a federal tax benefit or a deduction like you would maybe a 401k. All the investment activity is tax sheltered, and growth, whenever that comes back to the markets, is kind of tax deferred. And then if you withdraw that growth for a qualified educational expense, which would be tuition, room and board, computer, books, those sorts of things, then that growth comes out tax-free. Mm-hmm. What else do we need to know about the 529 plan and how it works for college?
I think a lot of people wonder, does it matter what state my kid is going to school in? Because the interesting thing about 529 plans, this is, it's a section of the federal tax code, but it basically sets this up so that the states can create their own 529 plans as a tax shelter for kind of pre-planning or pre-paying for your college expenses. And my understanding is all 50 states have one, at least one, right? So everyone has adopted this. But if you set up a 529 plan in your own home state, does that mean your kids have to go to that state school? And if they're using a 529 plan to just build up savings and it's not a prepaid type of a plan, the truth is you can go to any school.
Yeah.
As long as it's a qualified,
They
college or university.
Yeah, they participate in the FAFSA program, essentially. So that is one of the other requirements for your withdrawal to be considered qualified, is it's got to be used for a qualified expense at a qualified institution, and that is a school that participates in that has a federal ID number, the FAFSA system. You get it? Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, there's just a few. Now, that is an interesting thing to highlight, Josh, is that back in the day when these first came out, the different states had different sponsors, if you will. So your investment choices per state were different. So there were a lot of advisors that used the Virginia College Savings Plan because that had American funds, and that was as a good fund family to just get money invested. Now, if you lived in Indiana and you invested in the Virginia plan, you got the tax deferred and tax free benefits as it grew and as it came out, but you didn't get any benefit putting the money in because you didn't live in Virginia. You lived in Indiana, and Indiana didn't have a compelling. First of all, they didn't have a compelling investment lineup, but they didn't have a compelling incentive to use their plan.
Right. So the federal laws that Josh laid out of after-tax money in, tax-sheltered activity and growth, and then tax-free withdrawals for qualified use, those are federal laws. States, as they adopt their plan, not all, but some, I wouldn't say many, but some offer a state benefit if you use that state's plan. And that makes sense because they're trying to encourage their citizens, their residents, to save up for college and overall, elevate the population, And in northern Indiana, they call it the brain drain, where everyone leaves and doesn't return. So the educated folks. So in Indiana in 2007. Late 2007, I remember by accident, actually, Kevin was going to be interviewed on TV, and we were kind of looking at, college planning and some of the laying out some of the, approaches to take. And we found this little paragraph that in the Indiana laws that said, starting that next year, there was going to be a 20% state tax credit on the first $5,000 that you contribute to the Indiana plan. Now, you've got to pay Indiana state tax. Otherwise, that tax credit means nothing to you. But that is an unbelievable tax benefit.
Yeah.
Indiana, I would say, offers the best. It's now 20% on the first $7,500 you contribute.
That's exactly right. When a financial advisor hears the word tax credit, they start salivating immediately because it is dollar for dollar a reduction on your tax bill. So a 20% credit on the first $7,500 means you could have up to $1,500 just knocked right off of your tax bill on that state return. Yeah. So we love bragging about Indiana and the incentives that they've put in place.
Yeah, so think Indiana state tax, not the county tax. Because if you live in Indiana, you know that your county tax is a component of that as well. But just to give you a quick contrast, in Michigan, it's not a credit, it's a deduction. In Illinois, it's a deduction. And in Michigan, if you got the deduction this year, you can't pull money out to your deductions on your net contribution. So whatever you contribute but then withdraw, it's the net amount that you get. And it's not that way in Indiana. That's correct. The sweet thing about the Indiana plan. So this is where, because there are really two ways to do it. There's the go it alone 529 plan, and you it's less expensive, and then there's the I call it the advice-free 529 plan or the advisor 529 plan. Yeah. And the reason why, and people say, well, why would I ever pay for this if I can do it myself? Because most folks just can't do it themselves. And it's not that it's that hard. It's just, I don't know if you've ever gone from one year to the next, and then you go and you sit with your accountant and they say, did you do your 529 plan contribution last year? And you say, yeah, of course I did. And they say, well, I'm looking at the records and there's no evidence that you did. And you're like, well,
I meant to.
I thought it was last year. And they're like, oh, that was 2 years ago. Oh, shoot. So you don't get the credit. And so and you think, well, would that ever happen? All the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind also, it's not just the administrative process of setting up the 529 plan and making sure it gets funded and remembering to keep contributing and everything. Also, this is an investment vehicle. And, you know, everything that you were saying earlier, Mike, about the tax shelter that this represents, to me, it just screams over and over, you got to get started early with something like this.
Yeah.
Because every tax shelter, what they all have in common, the longer the money can be setting in the pot simmering, the better it's all going to work out for you. And so if you've got young children, getting going just a small amount each month, contributing to this account, and then choosing wisely with the investments. And that's often what people lean on the financial advisors for. It's how do I pick the right investments? A lot of these 529 plans actually have almost like an autopilot feature to it when it comes to the investments. Many of them have what they call target enrollment date funds, which basically says we're going to invest this money up to a certain date out there in the future, which is meant to line up with when the kid's going to college. Yeah. And so early on, these funds are more aggressive, and as they get closer to that start date for college, they kind of wind down the amount of debt. And that might sound like a perfect, easy tool. It may or may not be the right approach for you. Maybe a more custom structure would be appropriate. But this is why 529 plans, they fit in the overall financial planning process. It needs to be something that you're working on with your CFP so you know what is the right amount to be saving, what are the tax benefits I could be taking advantage of, and how do I invest it wisely along the way?
Normally, in the majority of circumstances, don't love target date funds for retirement. Retirement is going to take decades for you to save up into, and it will last decades. And therefore, a target date, a prefab approach, just not a big fan of, maybe in some unique circumstances. For college savings, I'm a little more neutral or a little more open. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is there are IRS limitations on how frequently you can change your investments in the 529 plan. And if you change it too much, poof, all of the tax sheltering goes away.
Yeah, great point.
Wow. I can't even believe that is still a thing, and it is.
Yeah.
They've loosened it a little bit, but how frightening is that? And so something that has some automatic rebalancing and diversification in it, I like. But then second is, yes, you save up for college potentially over a couple decades, but that time's going to go by fast. And then you spend the money not over decades, but over a couple of years. And so something that will automatically ratchet the risk, I think, might help more people. All right, using the 529 plan for college, obvious. What are the other three ways? We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. All right.
Here we go.
So, third segment, we'll do student loans. Okay. Is it going to drive? I realize I put it not in chronological order.
I think I was going to point that out.
So let's
Kevin's
do.
rant.
So let's do.
Yep.
Let's
do
do
it.
K
was
through
that?
12.
Yeah, it's a long story, Josh. I could tell you, but then we'd have a problem.
Let's do
Because
K.
you'd be in trouble with Mike.
He already got in trouble.
I'm already in trouble. Right,
not reading the outline.
I have a very, very short memory though, so you're fine.
I'm happy.
I'll
sitting,
keep reminding you, Mike.
I'm happy sitting in the passenger seat, reaching over, grabbing that wheel.
This time though, so Kevin has a knack of changing the outline or changing the topics. I think this is a first where he tried to change it directly into where I was wanting us to go.
It's so ironic.
You know what? Let's talk about these other uses.
No, actually, just I'm the chief reminding officer, and
Okay, so let's go primary school, K through 12, and then we'll go student loans, and we'll hit both of those in this segment, and then we'll do Roth. So
I'm happy to share. Because, okay, so let's answer this question off the air before we answer it on the air, because I don't want to have an argument and be wrong, which is kind of how it goes. So I can take $10,000 per year per beneficiary out of my 529 for K-12.
For K-12, tuition
I know.
only.
I think I can only take $10,000 per year. Is that possible?
Well, you'd have to have a second 529 plan if you have a second
I
child,
think
don't you?
No, this is where I always get nervous.
It's the same amount for student loans, 10 grand, but that's lifetime, and that is per beneficiary. Doesn't matter if grandma and grandpa have a separate 529 plan for Sally, and you've got a 529 plan for Sally. It is 10 grand total.
Yeah, but that's student loan.
That's student loans. I think it's.
But the per year amount for K through 12, like you can't pull 10 grand for each of your 3 kids out of one 529 plan, right?
I don't think so. It's still got to line up with beneficiary.
Yeah,
but
you can only have one beneficiary on the 529 plan that you can contribute or pull out of.
So this is important because if today, this is probably stuff for the show.
All right, let's do it.
Yep.
Third segment.
Good. Good.
529 plan is actually more than just a college savings tool. You can use it for a few different things. In fact, one of the things that for my entire career said, nah, you can't use it for this, people would ask, you actually can now. So we're going to help you with that and more. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com, and then all over social media, wherever you're at. We are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. Talking about the 4 different ways you can use a 529 plan. College is the obvious one, and we tried to hit a smattering of the rules. But we would encourage you, just like Kevin did earlier, work with your CFP. It's far too often we're sitting down with new folks that say, hey, I need to start working with a certified financial planner. They've got a 6-year-old. They've been setting some money aside for college, but not using their state's tax benefit via their own 529 plan. So work with the CFP. Make sure you're getting that advice and that guidance, that wisdom. So college is one. The second way that you can use a 529 plan is actually to pay for K through 12 educational expenses, primary school. So what are some of those rules, guys?
Well, you can only use $10,000 per calendar year, and this can be the thing that's kind of confusing because when do you incur the expense, and when do you take the distribution from your plan? And those have to match up in a calendar year.
Right.
And so you have to take that out because when this came out in 2017, I was kind of relieved because I had accumulated some money in a 529 plan. Here's a rule of thumb. As soon as your kids get born, get going on that 529.
You've said before, you're never more motivated to save for that child's college education than when you're holding that child for the first time. Because as you do that, and I've had that privilege 3 different times in my life, you just think of everything that you hope and want and pray for that child. What's this little bundle of life? What's their life going to look like? And you want it to be better than yours. You want it to have opportunities. And so yeah, get started saving right away. Completely agree.
And so you can take $10,000 a year out. And so I've had clients that they have a child that's born and they say, well, do I need to do anything related to a 529 plan because there are grandparents who will likely want to be involved with the college funding? And you say, well, where do you want your kids to go to school? And if they say Stanley Clark, then you say, well, yeah, then start piling that money up. Because if your child is born last year, you put $5,000 in the Indiana 529 plan. Then this year you put $7,500 in. And over time, you pile up some money because those $10,000 chunks are going to come out faster than the monies that you're putting in are giving you a credit. And it's important because when you look at this, you want to know when you start funding this, what do you think it's going to look like? Because here's what I can promise you. It's not going to look like what you think. But so you just start with a picture and you start funding toward that picture and structuring your investments to be in line with that picture using the 529 as likely one of the components, again, depending on how many kids you have, but one of the components of your
Yeah, you're pointing to the fact that this is the 529 plan is a funding tool to help you achieve a goal. And your goals are in alignment, they should be in alignment with what you value most. And for some families, helping their kids fund college is just a top priority for them. So some parents will even place that ahead of their own retirement, just feeling like, I'll play catch up, or I'll work until I die. I don't care. I'm going to make sure that my kid is well educated and given every opportunity in life. I've had some clients that actually favor a private K through 12 education over college.
Yep.
And so now all of a sudden the 529 plan, because it can be a savings vehicle for that, it's a tool that's opened up to them. And it's interesting because some of them would say, you know what, I want to invest in my kids getting a Christian education K through 12, and then they're going to be on their own entirely for college. That's just a decision that they made as parents. But the point is, what you choose to direct dollars towards needs to be in alignment with what your values are. That's how you should be stating your goals. And ultimately, your certified financial planner is there to help you just play the game well, to go achieve those goals as well as you can. And just recognizing, 529 plan is now a tool that can be used for that K through 12 private education if that's what you choose to focus on.
Yeah, and there are a couple things I'd point out with this. Number one is this is an investing vehicle as well. And if you believe, like Kevin said, when you start saving, you should have a picture for what do we think we're going to use this money for, because you're going to have to set your investment decisions. How are you going to invest these dollars? If you feel very confident, we're going to be using this money in 6 years because we feel like the child's going to be going to private school, then that's going to influence your investment decisions. But just like he said, you're not going to have a perfect picture. You're going to need to adapt. And oftentimes, I can't remember who it was, Mitch Anthony maybe, you get, you don't pay your financial advisor to build the plan. You pay them to change the plan because your life is going to adjust and adapt, and the financial decisions and the advice needs to adapt as well. And so just be aware that this decision to, I'm going to use this money for college or K through 12 or maybe a blend of both is going to influence your investment decisions. That it should. Okay, work with your CFP on that. And then second is, if you're using a state's plan that offers a state benefit, you need to double check and see if, do I lose the state benefit if I withdraw the money for K through 12? And you might say, what? That's ridiculous. The federal government in 2017 just said I could use this for K through 12. Of course I get the state benefit. No. Not so fast. There is a separation between Fed and state. And so there's a list of states: California, Colorado, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska. That's not all. New York. That's not all of them. But that's the list of states that, if you use it for K through 12, you might not get our state benefits. Indiana has a very rich tax incentive, and they've actually said, with using the 529 plan for K through 12 is still a qualified expense. You don't need to pay back the tax credit. Not so with this third plan, or with this third way to use a 529 plan. For my entire career, Kevin, yours as well, Josh, yours as well, people would say, hey, I'm saving up in this 529 plan, but I want my kid to have some responsibility. So they're going to take on some student loans. Can I use my 529 plan to pay off the student loans? And the answer was always no. And then you maybe have gotten this, guys. Then they look at you like, are you dumb? This 529 plan is for college. Student loans are for college. Why can't I use my 529 plan to pay on these student loans? And then you say, it's not me that's dumb, it's Congress. No, so
sometimes both.
Sometimes both. The Secure Act 1.0, not 2.0, Secure Act 1.0 actually opened these rules up a little bit. And with some limitations, guys, let's get into it. You can use your 529 plan to help with some student loans. What are those rules?
Yeah, this felt like a game changer because it means that you're less likely to get a bunch of money stuck, like extra dollars stuck in a 529 plan after your kid is done with school and everything. But they now allow you to pull $10,000 per student or per borrower, I guess we would use the word beneficiary, out of the 529 plan over their lifetime and put it towards those student loans. So if they were borrowing money, maybe believing that they needed to along the way, but then maybe qualified for a scholarship or worked some extra summer hours and they ended up actually not needing as much of those student loans as they originally thought, and all of a sudden you've got extra dollars in the 529 plan, you can take some of that money out, put $10,000 down on the student loans and accelerate the repayment date that way.
Most states, Indiana is one of them, this is not a qualified withdrawal, meaning you would have to pay back the state tax credit. So you can't be listening to this right now saying, oh, I've got student loans. Maybe I'll fund my 529 plan, get a tax credit, and then use this money for student loans. But actually, I know you're not thinking that because coincidentally, this law changed at the very end of 2019, went in effect 1/1 of 2020, and no one has paid a dime on their student loans really since then, almost. Of course, I'm joking, but we're still in limbo on this thing. And
No, that's not joking.
so
No, people aren't paying.
haven't
because
been required to.
It's been deferred for a long time because of the cost.
So whenever this normalizes, and who knows what that means, just know that you can use $10,000 per beneficiary, not per account or per owner, per beneficiary over their lifetime to help pay down student loans. All right. I said there's four. There's 4 ways to use the 529 plan, and the last one is the most wild, and it's the most recent. We're going to share that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Boy, when's the last time you've used the words wild with finances?
It's all relative, Mike.
It's on a daily basis, Mike. So one of the things that we did not hit, and it is more relevant, is using the 529 plan for homeschooling. Because
Share it.
that is okay. That would be in probably the K through 12.
Considered private school, essentially.
Well, some states universally consider homeschoolers a form of private schooling.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think, Illinois, Indiana are states that are around us.
Is it up to 10 or is it a lower limit?
Well, it's for certain purposes. So I think you're probably capped at 10.
Or what you spend, right? I mean, I don't know. I would think it'd be hard for a homeschooler to spend $10,000, but maybe not.
Transportation. So you have
Health insurance.
curriculum. So you have
Utilities. Can you work that in there?
Yeah, right.
Housing, student housing,
It's required that I have electricity in my home to educate my kid.
curriculum, textbooks, supplies, computers, things like that.
All right, let's mention that, and then we'll get into the Roth IRA rules. This 4 segment, so land in the plane. Here we go. Can a 529 plan, can an educational savings account be augmented and adapted to actually help with retirement? Believe it or not, never thought I'd say it. That answer is yes. We're going to explain how. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name's Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode, as well as a lot of other content, is on the Wise Money YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it, turn on notifications so you're made aware every time we drop a new episode, talk show, which you're listening to right now, but also lots of other content every single day. We are dropping next wise step tips and suggestions, so make sure you go check that out on YouTube, the Wise Money Show. Okay, we're talking about the 4 different ways that you can now use a 529 plan. This last one is brand new. It's not even in play yet, but guys, it influenced how I used my 529 plan. I made changes in response to these changes. Before we get into that, Kevin, there was one other honorable mention. You mentioned that we didn't comment on yet a use case for the 529 plan. What is that?
Well, that's for homeschooling, and through the shutdowns and lockdowns, or whatever you want to call them, there was a proliferation of homeschooling. And now with even some of the social issues in the schools, there's more and more homeschooling happening. So the question is, can I use my 529 plan for that? And I would say consult your tax advisor and really your financial planner, because there are some states where it is universally considered a private school. If you're homeschooling, it's private schooling. And at some point in time, who knows, there might be this concept that the money. I think this is true in Arizona. The money goes with the student. So wherever the student goes, that's where the money goes. But that doesn't matter. The idea is that you can use it for curriculum, textbooks, supplies, and computers. And again, with the exemptions or the rules applied to this, you can't use it for transportation.
We started the show talking about how the Wise Money Show is a show about financial planning. And I mean, the 529 plan, this is an investment tool, but it also is for a long-term goal. It helps, or it's using your cash flow, present financial position. But you've got to understand the tax rules and the varying tax rules, therefore tax planning. So right there, that is 4 of the 6 areas of your financial life. And we haven't even talked about the unique way that the 529 plan is treated with your estate plan. So right there, square in the center, right between the eyes, this impacts 5 of the 6 areas of your financial life. So therefore, to know if you're using it the best way or the most appropriate way for your financial situation, you've got to be working with a CFP that's looking at all 6 areas of your financial life. And certainly because of this last reason. We share that 529 plans at a federal level, the way they're structured, it's after-tax money that you put in. So it's not a tax benefit federally. Some states offer some if you use their plan and live in that state. All the activity in that account then is tax sheltered. And then the growth on that, if you withdraw that for a qualified reason, then it comes out tax free. Sounds a lot like the Roth IRA.
Sure does.
We've even said the 529 plan, it's the Roth IRA, but for college. Mm-hmm. Not anymore. It can be the Roth IRA for the Roth IRA.
The pre-Roth IRA?
That's right. That's right. So in the Secure Act 2.0, which you knew it as an omnibus spending bill, passed on conveniently Christmas Eve. As I'm trying to enjoy Christmas Eve brunch with the family, I pull out the phone and I see this thing passed, and Cindy's like, "Mike, put that down." And I'm just blown away that, they've been, positioning for this all last year, and they actually did pass it right at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And it now allows a 529 to Roth IRA transfer. Not yet, but coming up. So what are the rules? And what do we know? What do we not know?
Actually, I'm still stuck at the Bernard family Christmas because I'm thinking Cindy saying, "Mike, put the phone down and go cut the fruitcake like I asked."
You fruitcake?
Okay, Josh, what are the rules?
Wow, I'm lost.
I know,
right
that's
now.
what I'm saying. You had me at
remarkable.
Bernard family Christmas. I just can see Mike with the Santa beard on and the pillows stuffed up his shirt.
So here's the thing. This doesn't even go into effect until next year, right? 2024, January 1st is the first time that you'll be able to pull off this little maneuver. But it's essentially, they're allowing you to take money out of a 529 plan and transfer it, I think is the word they're going to use, transfer it into a Roth IRA. But it's treated as a contribution, basically. Yeah. So Roth IRAs, you're limited in how much you're allowed to contribute each year. You're going to be capped. You can't just transfer all $30,000 out of your 529 plan. Were you going to say something?
Well, no. So you're capped at $10,000, right?
No. Whatever your contribution limit is.
Wait, what was? Okay, okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Just checking. Good.
So
you passed.
If that student, earned $5,000 per year or something while they were in school, the year that they come out of school, hopefully they're earning a salary and will be able to max out a Roth IRA that year. But each year you're allowed to contribute, and when you've hit $35,000 worth of contributions over time, then you're done.
Yeah, that's it.
So in the meantime, the dollars stay in the 529 plan. They keep on growing, tax sheltered, and so on. But I actually had a client just during tax season where we discovered, hey, this may actually be a solution for them.
Yep.
They have a daughter who's been out of school for about 3 or 4 years, and there's been extra money sitting in the 529 plan just continuing to grow, just letting it continue to be tax deferred and everything. They've been holding on to it, wondering whether or not she was going to go back to grad school. And I think she definitively told her parents, no, I'm not going back to grad school. And so the question came up during a tax meeting, okay, what kind of tax hit are we going to have on this? And I was able to share with them, actually, there's a brand new rule that is going to go into effect next year. And your daughter may be able to start shifting this money to a Roth IRA, which they were just, so excited about because they are big fans of the Roth IRA.
So it's per beneficiary. It's $35,000 per beneficiary in the beneficiary's lifetime.
That's right.
And so, I mean, with inflation and the way it's going, it won't be long before that will be like an annual contribution.
The annual contribution limit. Okay, so here's why I made a change to my family's 529 plan this year because of this rule. In the rule, what 529 plans are eligible for this transfer? Well, there's two requirements, and one is the 529 plan needs to have been open for 15 years. Well, we've got 3 kids. No one's going to college anytime soon, so I've just used one account because we like Carrington the most, and I try to tell the boys that as often as I can. No, because she's the oldest. So, okay, well, she'll use that, and then, when we get close, then we'll open one for the second child and transfer some into his name, blah, blah, blah. But no, if there's a 15-year clock, let's get that clock started.
That's right.
So I opened 529 plans for each of the boys to start that 15-year clock. That's one requirement. You might want to make that change this year. Second thing is the money that's eligible to be transferred to the Roth IRA cannot be a contribution that was made in the previous 5 years, nor a growth on that contribution, which we spoke to folks at our state's plan just recently, and they said, yeah, their auditing or record keeping, I should say, isn't even set up to be able to track that right now. Mm-hmm. So there's a big qualifier on whether you'll even be able to do this once you're allowed to, because states are just scrambling to keep up and be able to make this available. So be aware of that you might want to start that 15-year clock and start funding it more now so that you've got more dollars in there and you won't have to, be limited by that contributions made in the previous 5 years.
That's right.
So
you alluded to something there that everyone needs to keep in mind with the 529 plans. This has been, one of the flexibilities, one of the options for planning purposes that have been around since the beginning. But with all these new opportunities to shift money around and use it for something other than college, that kind of thing, you might lose track of the fact that you can change the beneficiary on a 529 plan as well. Yeah. So if there are extra dollars left over in a 529 plan and that student is done with college, they're not going to go on to grad school and use up the rest of the money, yeah, you could cash it in and maybe pay some taxes and penalties on the growth. Or maybe you use one of these options that we talked about, putting it towards a student loan or contributing it to a Roth IRA. But keep in mind, there may be another family member coming on their heels who still needs some help with college as well. Yeah. You can always change that beneficiary once a year and essentially roll the money down to another family member who will use it up for college expenses again.
Even if you had it set aside for a child, maybe a future grandchild, something like that. But there's lots of planning implications and ways that you can plan with the 529 plan. It's not just for college anymore. Make sure you're working with your certified financial planner on these rules and how they influence your financial vision and direction and financial decisions that you're making. Work with your CFP. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Korhorn, all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.